It's like we're so strange that we live in a world where it's considered dieting just to eat real food.
Nutrition itself is very subjective.
The human body's so intricate and everyone needs to test and learn.
Introducing Alfie and Jake.
Founders of Pure Body.
Prioritising health is the first thing we prioritise when we wake up.
So when was the last time you ate something that was actually ultra processed? And what was it?
There's been one time, probably 2 weeks ago, we got invited to a Shabbat, it's called. It's like a traditional Jewish dinner that they do on Friday nights. And it was the first time I've eaten like a tiny little bit of bread in like 5 years.
When you say like you prioritize health, what does that actually look like for you beyond just like exercise?
I think it's more a mental health component for me, given we spend so much time on our phone now.
Where does the discipline come from? It is incredible. Do you ever have a moment where you're just like, I don't want to do it?
Social media is so new for Alfie and I. I started social media in February last year. It's tough to navigate, and sometimes I'd love to have a nap. Like, there's a lot to handle. Sometimes I just get so overwhelmed. I think
Welcome back to the Chew on This podcast. I'm so excited for this episode. I get excited for every episode, actually. I don't know why I always say that, but super excited for this one because the two guys that I have here with me today, Jake and Alfie, are just incredible in everything that they do. They're super mobile. They live a very disciplined life and they look great as well. Their leanness and aesthetics are just like beyond. So super excited to talk to them about their principles, about how they got to where they are today, and just like the values that they live by in order to maintain the healthy lifestyle that they do. So welcome to the show, Jake and Alfie.
Thank you for having us.
What an
Really
introduction.
appreciate it.
I know, did you like it?
Very good, very smooth.
Good, I'm glad. I just came out, just flowed.
Rolled off the tongue.
Yeah, it just flowed naturally. But I think for me, I'd love to start with just asking you both, what is the worst piece of advice you've received regarding diet and how did you navigate past it?
That's a tricky question. Worst piece of advice. I don't know if I've actually ever had like a bad piece of nutrition advice. I think nutrition itself is very subjective. Yeah. So I guess it's kind of tailored to the individual. Yeah, how about you? Have you ever had any?
I think leaning on that, it's that probably anyone that says there's one diet that is the answer. And I think you get some people that are just charging down one lane, and I think particularly on social media, which is a platform which is so polarizing and probably rewards people that are just down one specific vein and sort of push everything out and really go after that. I just think, the human body's so intricate and everyone needs to sort of test and learn. And I think the way where we've got to today has been taking what's out there, taking all the information available and then trying it out ourselves and seeing how our body responds and how we feel, and really going off a lot of intuition as well.
Yeah, that's been a consistent message with a lot of my guests, is that there's so much information out there, which is amazing because back 10, 15 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot. And the only problem with that is that people feel like if someone is doing something and it's working for them, it must work on this other person, right? But it's really trial and error. And it's really just assessing how you feel, which is most important. And what may work for one person may not work on the other. So I think, what you said, Jake, about there's never been any bad nutritional advice. I think that is just so powerful because you just learn every single time, right? And you just reiterate and you just find something that works for you.
Yeah.
So how did you get to where you are today? Have you always been like this? Because I follow you guys. I think it's incredible what you do. You are the most disciplined people I have ever come across. I just think it's incredible how you live your life consistently every single day. So has this always been a part of your life, like this focus on health and wellness?
For me, yeah, probably the better part of I guess I got into fitness when I was 16, started lifting weights, and then a few years down the track, I got way more into nutrition. I'd actually just finished a big festival, and I was driving home just feeling horrible. Went to Rhythm and Vines and did the whole thing. And then I listened to this podcast with Paul Saladino and really just opened my eyes to the whole world of nutrition. And then started my animal-based journey. So I was a big meat eater and big fruit eater, along with organ meats as well, all grass-fed, quality. And that's kind of where it all started. And now that's kind of transitioned into just whole foods. And now Alfie and I share an account called Pure Body Boys. And it's just whole food centric. And that's pretty much the core philosophy and what we believe in. Yeah.
What about you, Alfie?
Yeah, similar journey. I think growing up in high school, a lot of testosterone flying around. I think, being rugby, a big sport in New Zealand where we grew up, I think being strong and fit was definitely something that everyone aspired towards. So that was sort of when weightlifting started. But I think initially everyone sort of starts out of the aesthetic drivers. And then over time, as it became less about looking a certain way and more about feeling a certain way. And that's where I think we sort of evolved not only the training, but also looking at health holistically. And it's more about, waking up, getting the sunrise, getting like cold plunges, doing saunas. And it's more than just what you do in a weight room. And obviously what you eat and how you prepare that in the kitchen is a huge part of that as well.
Absolutely. What are the principles that you guys live by? Because we spoke about this before we started the podcast. And I love that you have each other. You both live together, which makes it a million times easier. You have each other for accountability or friendly competition, as you say.
Yeah.
So tell me, what are your values when it comes to health and nutrition that is a non-negotiable for you that you live by every single day?
I think it's just prioritizing it, putting it first. We're both busy people now. We work pretty long hours. You know that as well, being part of that like self-employment. You're working on your own schedule, which is fantastic, but you're also working very long hours. And I think with that, it's still prioritizing health. It's probably the first thing we prioritize when we wake up, even if that's not looking at the phone, it's getting the sunlight in the morning, having whole foods readily available to us. And for me, I'm someone who, if it's in the house, I'll probably eat it. So I just don't even buy it. And I'm fortunate that we're surrounded by people as well who don't really go into the processed food and all of that sort of junk food life. I feel like living in Bondi, everyone's just so healthy and there's so many good options readily available to us. So really utilizing that and surrounding ourselves with, when we are going to the pantry or the fridge, there's always healthy options there.
Yeah, I think creating your environment around the person that you want to be and continue to be is so important, because they say you are similar to the 5 closest people around you. So if your friends go to sign up to the gym, you're more likely going to sign up for a gym. If your friends go out partying, you're more likely going to go out partying on the weekend. And so it sounds like you guys really nailed that. Yeah. And it makes it hard to step outside of that when you are in it and your bubble is in it. I want to touch on something that you said, Alfie. You said that you prioritize health, which is above all, which I should probably take a leaf out of your book because I've prioritized my work over the last 6 months. But when you said that, you said it could be just getting some sun in or doing the sauna or whatever it may be. You didn't actually say that it was exercise, which I really appreciate. So talk to me about when you say you prioritize health, what does that actually look like for you beyond just exercise?
I think it's more like the mental health component for me, given we spend so much time on our phone now. I made such a conscious effort to not check my phone first thing when I wake up and try to avoid it at least an hour before I go to bed, which is incredibly difficult for someone whose job and life is now online. But I think that it's setting those boundaries and being okay, this is the time where I just need to wake up, maybe it's a bit of light movement, maybe it's just going outdoors, going for a walk around the block, just something really simple to let everything else clear. And I use that time to plan my day as well. I think planning ahead, life favors the prepared, but I think seriously having those sort of that day planned out, particularly if you work on your own schedule, you need to sort of allocate and time block where you're going to be, what you're going to do and how you're going to complete it. And I think that's really important for me. So it sort of goes beyond just getting a sweat on, which is obviously an important part of the day, but it's not the first thing I think about when I wake up.
What's your top number one thing that you feel like you can't live without? If you had to choose between everything that you do that I guess contributes to good mental health or just overall good health, being out in the sun or sauna or ice baths or whatever, exercise, what would you say, both of you would say is the one thing you just cannot live without?
It's extremely tough. I would say it would be a tied decision. If I had to pick one, it would be nutrition. But
good.
It's very tight between that and just physical exercise.
Yeah.
I think some movement. But I guess if we're going on the trade-off of it's you get to move today, but you can only process food, or you're tied to a chair and you can't move at all, but you can eat non-processed food. It probably would have to be nutrition, because I think I just feel so horrible when I eat processed food now. We've really trained our body I think we touched on this like before we started around like, do you cheat on your diet? And it's like, we don't even see it as a diet. Like, it's so strange. Rhonda Patrick said it really well, where it's like, we're so strange that we live in a world where it's considered dieting just to eat real food.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to
isn't
us.
it?
Crazy. It blows my mind.
So what is your definition of whole foods? Explain that to me, because you keep touching on that, right?
Yeah.
So you talk about not eating any processed food. So tell me what that actually means to you and how you, I guess, determine whether something is processed or not, because, you know, it can be perceived differently for different people.
It can. Just like, it can sometimes get a bit weird because like obviously like beef mince is processed, for example.
Yeah.
But it's minimally processed. It's still in its whole food form, which is pretty much what we look for. Like if it's from nature, if Mother Nature put it on this earth, like we're pretty open to eating it. So if it's like vegetables, fruits, meats, organ meats as well, like that's probably the 4 main, and like dairy as well. That's like the 5 main kind of like genres of food that we eat. Yeah.
I think when we group processed food, we're regarding like ultra processed things that have additives, hyperpalatable, artificial flavors, coloring, things that have really been changed away from like their single ingredient natural form.
Single ingredient's a really good way to put it. Like single ingredient foods where we're going to tuck in.
So tell me how you like satisfy a craving or sweet treat. Like what's your go-to then?
Well, that's the thing. And I think why we often refer to this like 30 days, and we both run separately outside of food, like 30-day challenges. But I think it's a great way to build a habit and like you start seeing the benefits. So I think then like whatever decisions you've made feel worth it, because there's that like delayed gratification that you start to see the results of. But after 30 days of eating non-processed food, like the cravings just aren't there anymore. Like if you wanted a sweet treat, maybe it's like medjool dates, or it's figs, or it's fruit, or like papaya, bananas. Like you're not craving the chocolate and the ultra processed food that I think your body just convinces yourself that you want it because it's like you've eaten it relatively recently. And that's when you're sort of cutting out like that refined processed sugar out of your diet, the effects that you see.
So when was the last time you ate something that was actually ultra processed? Just out of curiosity. And what was it?
It's a better question for Jake. He's like a real diehard here. I've gone traveling recently, so
so you've been naughty,
He's
huh?
been
Naughty. Exposed.
It was a cultural experience in Peru. And
So there's been one time, and probably 2 weeks ago, we got invited to a Shabbat, it's called. It's like a traditional Jewish dinner that they do on Friday nights. And it was the first time I've eaten like a tiny little bit of bread in like 5 years. And they really wanted me to try it. And I was like, I'll do it out of respect.
It's like tradition
you for
to like
doing
break
that,
the
right?
bread.
And I was like, you know what?
Like, no.
Like, I'll do it. And I ate it, and like bread's yummy. But before that, like, it's literally been like 5 or 6 years probably.
How did
like,
you
I just
feel
don't cheat. Don't feel the need to.
How did you feel after you ate that little bit of bread?
I was fine. Like, I was fine. But like, there was a
did
part
you
of me that
mentally
really
feel?
didn't want to do it.
Mentally, how did you feel mentally? Did you feel guilt?
Kind of, yeah, a little bit, but I just let it go. Like, I'm fine now.
Yeah, you're still
like,
here.
I still slept well. You know what I mean?
And that's important. Performance is still at
and
its
like,
peak.
the family is a lovely family, and they have our best interest at heart. So I just thought, you know what, I'll do it. I'll try it. I'll culture myself. But before that, literally like 5 years, like I haven't touched cheat meals.
So how do you navigate social outings, or like when you get invited to dinner or events or anything? Like, it becomes more difficult because you don't know how people are cooking the meals, or you don't have control over what's going to be served. So much like when you went for dinner 2 weeks ago, how do you navigate social outings?
Yeah, it is a tricky one. I feel like having a friend group that accepts you for like your choices is very essential, and we're lucky enough to have a group that fully supports us and doesn't make us feel bad about the way we eat and live our life. I always check with like the waiter, like what is this meal cooked in, like no sauces, please, like sauce on the side, whatever it may be, and just order like the basics. And sometimes if they don't have it, like usually the sides are a good option. Like you just choose like 5 different sides or something and just tell them to chuck it on a plate.
I do that anyways, to be honest.
Yeah. You can literally just choose what you want. Yeah.
So have you ever been served a meal where it is full of like just sauces and processed foods. Like, what have you done when they bring out your meal and you're like, that's not what I thought it was?
Send it back.
Do you actually, I'm not eating that.
No, I just make sure, like I will tell the waiter like 3 or waitress like 3 times, make sure there is no sauce, because I'm that, I just don't want it.
That's like me when I like order eggs on toast. When I go get like sourdough, I'm like, no butter on the sourdough, no olive oil on the eggs, because you guys know that like I calorie count and whatnot.
Olive oil and butter are great.
I know you're both like, you guys like
olive oil
you
is
preach
like,
it. You guys preach it. But I choose my healthy fats in other ways.
Yeah,
right?
which is absolutely fine.
And I'm just like, no butter, no olive oil, and I recite like 3 times, and then it comes out, and you're just like, I told you, no butter, no olive oil.
I will speak up and I will send it back. I know it's like, it makes a bit of a scene, but I mean, if you did ask, like they should give it to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think that the way that you currently like look at nutrition and your dietary intake, I'm not going to call it a diet because it's definitely not a diet, it's just a way of life. Do you think it's something that you can sustain for the rest of your life in every part of your life cycle? Like, you know, currently now you're in this phase of you're building a business, you're working on performance. I'm not sure if you are in relationships. I don't think you have kids. But what about when a family comes along and you start traveling more and so on? Like, do you think that this is sustainable, and how do you see it being sustainable?
Yeah, confirm no kids.
Yeah.
I think it is. Like, honestly, it's just prioritizing your health again.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's always sustainable if you make time for it. And you do sort of go and put it first. All the meals we make are very fast to make. We're very efficient eaters, I would say. Like, everything's cooked on the barbecue, or it's like an oven roast. Like, it's really quick and easy to prepare. And we find quite a lot of enjoyment, I think, in cooking it and eating it, which I think
sharing it.
I think I think comes through. Yeah, we love having people over and sharing our food. I don't really see it changing too much. Like, ultimately, it's just eating whole foods. It's just like going to the shopping aisle and picking the things that are single ingredient and real. I think I'll always pick up a piece of fruit over a candy bar. That will never really change.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that about you guys. Like I said, I follow you both on socials and I see how you bring people together with food. And I think that's so important. Like, you have family dinner it's just awesome because you're essentially putting something on the plate that's good for them, that it is so nutrient dense and is like the better option. And you don't find that a lot when people are hosting. You find that people are just like, you know, it's just crazy amounts of food of like whatever. But I think that you've brought people together with food and like good food as well, which I love seeing. And it probably has translated to people in your life as well. So do you find that your close friends and family are now eating the way that you eat as well?
Yeah, massively.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really cool to see. And like going back to that social side and going out and stuff, I think having a group of friends, like we'd prefer to have like a wholesome dinner with our friends than like go and, you know, get wasted. Or something like that.
Do you drink alcohol?
No.
Not anymore. Yeah.
I've actually been over a year sober now.
So how did alcohol fit into all of this? Like, because it's been a year since you've been sober. So a year ago, Alfie, I don't know when the last time you had alcohol is. Maybe Peru? No?
No, it would be about over 6 months.
So how did alcohol fit into all of this, into this whole foods diet that you guys preach?
I think prior it was like, we sort of had this attitude, you know, growing up in your young 20s, that it was like alcohol was just an exception. And it was like the classic dial in the week, go pretty wild on the weekends. And I think, there was sort of a turning point. I think Jay can speak on this really well, but when he was in Bali, we were all there with 17 of us in a villa over New Year's, which you can only imagine was chaos. And there was sort of a turning point after like a very big week of drinking. Jake, do you want to touch on it? I guess you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was just like I'd never really aligned with alcohol very well. Like I would drink pretty much because everyone else was doing it. And I kind of realized that like through like, I don't know, like 4 years of probably drinking alcohol through my teenagers and all of that. And then, I just kind of came to this point. I was like, I actually just don't enjoy it. And I don't like the way it makes me feel the day after. Like the productivity just plummets and you're just tired and you're heavy. And like it affected my performance mentally and physically, like in the gym. And that's such a huge part of my life. Like performing in the gym makes me feel good. And not being able to perform would just make me feel terrible. So I just stopped. But yeah, we've definitely had some big some big weekends in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely changed for the better now. And yeah, just the constant momentum that we get like week in, week out is just stacks and compounds. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I found huge benefits in cutting out alcohol personally.
Yeah, I've never really been a big drinker myself, and I like have spoken about this online, and I've gone like over a year like completely no alcohol, like not even wine at dinner or anything like that. And just how you feel the next day is just, it's crazy what alcohol can do to how you feel. But I'm big on moderation, right? So like everything in moderation. So if you want to have a glass of wine, have a glass of wine, vodka soda, whatever tickles your pickle, right?
Yeah.
But for me, like personally, much like you guys, I choose not to because of how it makes me feel the next day, because I would prefer to spend my Sunday just thriving, like get up, go for a run, go to the beach, go for a swim, whatever it may
100%.
be. Whereas like if you're hungover, I reckon it's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Like being hungover, it's just like not fun.
Yeah.
And you're just not your best self. So very much aligned on that. So just to talk about like your like just currently what your nutrition is like, tell me like, have you felt like there's been any personal challenges or lifestyle adjustments that you've had to do to, I guess, live the life that you both live?
Not really. I don't think so. No like specific adjustments or massive changes. I think maybe it's, I think the biggest one from not drinking, like just tying it back to that, is obviously you're not as social in those environments. So I think that was like a big adjustment, like sort of my Instagram, which is Alfie Gets Hard, started from the 75-day hard challenge. So that was
actually
like,
remember that, yeah.
Yeah, so that was like no drinking and stopping drinking, obviously, for 75 days after coming back from Europe and doing lots of drinking. And I think a big part of that was realizing, like, sort of maybe 45 days in, I was like, wow, you're incredibly less social, because if you stop drinking, particularly in the early days, you just don't really want to be in that environment either. Like, you're not going to go hang out in the bars and the pubs that you would anyway. And I wouldn't really advise it as well, because I think you just feel a bit, it's definitely like a little bit awkward sort of going into those engagements. You're way more likely for people to be like, oh, have a drink, have a drink. And I was sort of saying with the 75-day hard, what's great is you've got like a very empirical, just like I'm working towards 75 days. So when you're at the later end of it and you're like 60 days in and someone goes, oh, do you want a beer? And you're like, oh no, I'm day 60. They're far less likely to keep pushing because you've already sort of stood for 60 days. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest adjustment in terms of the lifestyle we live now, is actually finding other ways to be socials. Like we've traded nightlife for morning life, which in Sydney and particularly in Bondi, we have great morning life. Like I always say, like our clubbing nights have just been traded for morning life. Like, you know, generally because of lockout laws, closes a lot earlier than other places in the world. And we get this great like vibe in the morning. You know, it's rush hour down there at like 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m. in the morning down at Bondi.
It's literally the best. Like we always meet like every Friday. We go to Bronte for sunrise. Like we'll jog there. We'll get that morning sunlight. We'll watch the sunrise together, go for a swim. And then we'll go get coffee after and connect that way. And it's just like, it's magic. Like, especially for the mental health, it's just like.
And the endorphins flowing,
amazing.
like post a run, a swim, maybe a little bit cold. You then got like the caffeine hit from the coffee.
For your
and
friends.
It's, all your mates. And it's actually like you sort of, there's no like awkward social engagement. Like you're just in a great mood. And you sort of realize that's like a great example of a way that we really don't need alcohol to be social beings. But I think we really lost that, and a lot of us have. So I think relearning how to be sober is really, really important, particularly for anyone in their 20s, but also like 30s, you know, at really any age. I think we've forgotten how to be social sober, which is a little bit sad.
Yeah.
You got there in the end, right? And you found things that replace that, right?
Yeah.
It's wild.
Better.
Exactly. When I travel, like America or even Europe is quite bad. Everyone's asleep until like 9 a.m. And so like you walk out and it's just like at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., nothing is open. So no cafes are opened. So you can't go get a coffee or whatever. And no one is on the streets. It's just so weird.
It's one of my favorite things though in Europe is going running in the morning and the streets are just empty. And you're in these like ancient cobblestone towns.
Yeah.
And it's like,
good way to see the city.
But it is crazy. And whenever I come back to Bondi, last year I spent maybe half the year out of Sydney just traveling for work. And I feel like coming back, I was just like, wow, this like is really unique at how early and active like not just people are, but the whole community. Like cafes are open. There's, people swimming, running. There's so much stuff on in the morning. It's great.
Yeah, I feel like the culture here in Australia with like very early mornings is probably one of the best things about this country is that like cafes, I know cafes that open as early as like 4:45 or 5 a.m. You will never find that anywhere else.
No.
And it just brings people together very early morning and they're busy. Like because I used to live in Bronte actually. It was so busy in the morning at this one spot that would open at 5 a.m. And I'm like, everyone is awake. Like no one is sleeping at this point, which is awesome. Do you guys ever miss drinking alcohol? Be honest.
I think the social engagement, and that's why I won't completely shut off alcohol forever, because I think, sadly, I wish we lived in a world where everyone was confident enough that they could just go around sober and be themselves and engage in great social interaction. But for whatever reason, maybe because we're dependent on alcohol or other stimulus to achieve that level of social interaction, I think we'll always need something. And right now it's alcohol, and that's the thing that everyone does. So I miss some of the times are fun. Like you have a great time with mates, you break down a lot of barriers, everyone's having conversations flowing, you can have some great connections. But for now, I feel like I'm pretty happy separated from it.
Yeah,
How about you?
I feel the same way. I think, the memories you can make, if you
Or
remember them the
lack
next
of
day.
memories.
Yeah, it definitely builds friendships as well, which is definitely a positive, I guess you could say. But yeah, for now in my current life, I don't judge anyone if they want to drink. That's totally fine with me. But I just choose not to, and I'm fine with that. And I'm pretty content and happy with the life, and I'm lucky to share it with Alfie. We're super aligned in our values, so it's great to have someone like that you can do that with.
I have 2 questions. I don't want to forget it because when you say something I've got so many good questions. The first one is just one last thing about alcohol. Do you consider alcohol as ultra processed?
Yes, I would.
Yeah, I guess.
Because you're combining, ingredients, to get the end product.
Yeah.
But I think it's just I probably consider it as poison more
It
than
is poison.
Yeah.
Technically,
Actual
it is
poison.
poison. It is
Well,
actual
it's
poison.
It's not food. for
No,
one,
there's
but
no
yeah.
nutrients, whatever, in
No.
alcohol. There's nothing in it. It's empty, just empty. So it is technically poison. The body looks
Yeah,
at it as
empty
poison.
calories.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There is
and
zero
that's the
benefit.
reaction of
Yeah.
being drunk and
Yeah.
all of this stuff. That is your body trying to handle and cope. And it's just funny because growing up in New Zealand, I know Australia really shares this. There's such a thing growing up of being able to drink a lot of alcohol is a very cool thing. It's oh yeah, I put back 12, 20 beers. That is the legends of even cricket players that had, I forget his name, but he did the overhaul flight for the Ashes from Australia to England, and he still talked about as he knocked back I don't know, I forgot what it was, 48 beers or something like that. And that's just we really put that on a pedestal. And when you break it down, actually that's your body's ability to handle a quantity of poison. And we're boasting about that as something that's very cool. And then I think, it's just an interesting place that we've got to as society and how accepted and widely integrated it is into society.
Yeah, it's crazy. Australia is just everything involves alcohol. Alcohol is at every moment that we do. Is you go to brunch and you see people drinking alcohol. You lunch, every celebration, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, people at home for dinner just drinking a glass of wine. It's just so much alcohol.
It's hard. It's hard to avoid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually find it hardest with my family, which is really strange because they're I don't know, we're a very social family and they're quite into drinking. And I feel when I say, no, I don't want to drink, it's almost a level of offense being no, I don't want to be fun with you today. And that's sort of how they take it. I'm it's not that. I just value my health more than having it. And I don't feel like I need it in this situation. But I think it's sort of perceived as I'm drinking today, therefore I'm fun or engaged in this conversation.
That's how I feel with my family when I don't go for my second serving of food because I come from a Lebanese culture, and if you only eat one serving, it's is something wrong with you today?
Yeah.
You need to eat more, and it's Mum, this is not normal. This
Would get
amount
along
of
well
food.
with your family.
Yeah, this is not. Oh,
Would be
they
gone over
love
thirds.
you. Oh my, mum just like tries to force food, and it's like if you don't eat the second, you don't love her. And it's like, no, I love you a lot, like so much, but please, I don't need to eat anymore at my capacity right now.
That's so funny.
So, do you guys ever have conflicting views ever? And if you do, like, what is one thing recently that you guys just did not agree on with, like, anything? Because you're very aligned.
Yeah. I can't think of anything.
We're very complementary, which is good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's fortunate. Like, I've always said, Jake's a man of like uncompromising discipline. So it's his greatest strength and his greatest weakness in both ways. Because like it's uncompromising in the sense of like, as you're saying, like the social settings and how do you sort of compromise? Like he would make a scene with a waiter where I probably wouldn't make a scene. I'd just compromise and just take what I'm given. But I think that makes us very complementary because when we're on the same side of the table, it means that he's doing like all the non-compromising and then I'm finding a compromise if we need it as a team. So, yeah, it's good.
Where does the discipline come from, Jake? This one's directed to you. Like I see it. Like it is incredible. But like where did it start from?
I think probably from my parents, just like exposing me to heaps of different sports. Like I was massive into water polo. I played like soccer or like football, and played like tennis and stuff. And my dad was super supportive and he would always give me like advice. He would break down my game with me. And I guess that kind of instilled like some discipline and stuff into my younger years, which has carried me through. I would say just probably, a lot from my parents and then just being exposed to so many different sports in that regard and just growing up being completely dedicated to water polo. Like it was like my whole life. Like I played in the Born 98 World Champs, which is amazing. And like my parents supported me through all of that. So I think, from a young age, just being super sporty and just like into that whole world of, sports and activity and running. And like I did triathlons. Like, I think parents are a massive role in just pushing me and making sure that I, stay on track and help me and always progressing as well.
What about like now? So do you ever have a moment where you're just like, I don't want to do it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And how do you overcome it?
I just do it.
That's discipline versus motivation.
Absolutely. Yeah, motivation is not consistent at all.
Especially with this, because social media is so new for Alfie and I. Like I started social media in February last year. And now we both do it full time.
You've grown so much since February.
Yeah. It's been a wild ride and it's obviously a lot of learnings. But sometimes I just get so overwhelmed because you've got so many inbound like messages and like potential collaborations with brands and then like emails and then we do challenges and like we have to work out, we have to get up early, we have to go to bed. Like there's a lot to handle. It's tough to navigate and sometimes I would love to have a nap,
And do you just allow yourself to just...
There's ways that we've been kind of like exposing ourselves to different things like sauna, just going for a walk, especially taking time away from the phone has been like super beneficial for the mental health and sleep, like really prioritizing sleep and like shout out to Whoop because that's been helping a lot. So there's different ways that we kind of deal with that, like constant stimulus and like overwhelming. Like it's tough, but we do get through it.
What about you, Alfie? Are you ever like, I don't want to work out today. I just don't want to do it. Like, are you ever just like, oh, it's just a struggle?
I think like for us now, like a workout's almost an escape. I think as Jake said, like I started content in September last year. So it's like all so new. And it's been an awesome rocket ship and we're like both so grateful. One, to be where we are, but also to have each other. I think that helps massively. But it's almost like, because you're building a personal brand, it's like you are obviously putting yourself on this like pedestal where you're always on and you're drawing, by definition of building a personal brand, you're trying to draw as many eyes on you as possible. So you're in the spotlight and you're the one also peddling to keep the spotlight on. And then you're also running your own business. So you're suddenly like in the startup game where you're like self-employed, you know, you're pedaling to keep the lights on of your business that is fueled by the lights on that's also you. So you're just like wearing so many different hats at once. And I think then like the big thing for me recently has been like, I want to go work out. And then in the back of my head, I'll be doing an exercise. I'm like, oh, this would be a good exercise to film. So I'm like thinking about content, which I have to put out tonight or the following morning or whatever. So then I'm like filming in my workout, sort of losing track of and momentum in the workout. So sometimes we just go, nah, this is like dedicated to like the grind. Like this is like for the workout, for the point of releasing endorphins, getting a sweat on and benefiting our body. Like it's all about self-improvement with the workout. So I think that's really nice to like draw that separation. And that really comes from just like practice and having the discipline to stick to a schedule and ensure that you're ticking all the other boxes in your life. And then you can really show up for the workout and like show up for yourself, which is probably the most important thing. So yeah, it is overwhelming sometimes, but I think using the tools that we have, like putting the phone away, going for a walk, going for a sauna, and working out just for us, not for the point of content, is a good way to sort of release that and release some of that stress and pressure.
Yeah, setting boundaries I think is so important, particularly when you start a business and you are like self-employed and there's just so many moving parts. Setting boundaries of like, I'm going to work until this time and I'm turning my phone off or I'm putting my phone aside and that's it, or whatever it may be. I'm dedicating this time to just me, exercise, sauna, whatever it may be, is just so important throughout this journey. Otherwise you can just lose yourself and just becomes so overwhelming. It's just like a lot. Do you think that if you like, you mentioned something about like social media and how it plays a big part in like you are building your own personal brand, and for you guys it's like your health and wellness and even a bit of your aesthetic as well, because like you guys are so lean, like probably like one of the most leanest that I ever know, right? And you're lean all year round. It's never seasonal. You look the same from January to December. It's not like January, February, March you're like, yeah, I'm at my leanest, and then winter comes and you literally look the same every single day. Do you think that if you didn't have your social media following, you would still be as disciplined as you are today? Like, do you think you show up every single day even more because you have a community and an audience that you're essentially like showing up for?
No, I think we'd be just as disciplined. Like we've been doing this for years. Like I think it looks like an overnight success, as these things always do, but it's like we've both worked out for like 10 years now and we're like 24, 25. So it's been
so young.
Like drilled into us for so long. I think we looked like this before, so I don't think that's really changed.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, if you could give like each of you one tip about discipline, what would it be? Like, what keeps you disciplined? Like, what is that one thing where you're just like, because you're like, I just get it done. Like, I just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what is it that gets you to fucking just do it? Because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I want to do it, and they're like, I'm going to do it, but I don't do it.
Yeah.
So like, what is that one tip that you can give our listeners for discipline?
I would say listen to the podcast with David Goggins and Andrew Huberman, and that'll definitely set some discipline in your life, honestly. It's just day in, day out doing what you don't want to do and making sure that you do it. And there's, what's that part of your brain?
It's called like the enegula something. Okay, it's a really long, complex name. Andrew Huberman nails it as per. But he was basically saying how he discovered this and he waited until the podcast with David Goggins, who's like the extreme end of discipline and willpower. And he waited till the podcast to tell him what it was. And so there's part of the brain that they've actually identified that lights up when we do things that we do not like to do. And what's interesting about it is it's not like running. Let's say you go for a run and you didn't want to go for a run, and then like over time you start to enjoy your runs. It won't light that up. You've got to genuinely not enjoy the activity that you're doing and go through it. And they reckon it's the indication of willpower, and it grows the more you do that. And if you stop doing it, it will shrink.
It's like a muscle, right?
It is like a muscle.
Exactly.
Yeah, you exercise it. And also that's the thing, like you don't start with like the heaviest weight, like you build up over time.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are now, is it's just like, it's been this compounding effect of like doing things that we necessarily didn't want to do, but then we overcome it and realize we could. Then you get the like delayed gratification of the benefit of that, of its exercise.
Building evidence.
Yeah, you build evidence and then you start to enjoy it, and then you do the next thing that's hard, and that's how you progress.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's like resistance. You're just like loading up the weight every
It's
single
like
time.
me unpacking the
Exactly.
dishwasher. I freaking hate it every single day. Like,
Growing every
oh
time.
my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
My brain's huge.
It's just annoying. It's just so annoying.
I know.
Well,
we
we're
get
in
it.
a house, so we do a bit of social loafing. You know, where like if you're in a group, you tend to be like less active in those sort of tasks. You just leave it for the next person.
Oh.
That's been
Yeah.
the tactic.
Yeah.
Jake's pretty good at unpacking it recently, though. Been
Yeah.
very impressed.
Yeah, I've been growing that brain, you know.
Yeah, it's lighting up every single time.
Yeah.
So what's one thing you both do every day that you hate doing that you just do currently? Because it changes over time because you start to enjoy it over time. But what's one thing that you do now that you're just like,
That's a good question. I don't think there's actually something I like pick out every single day that's really, really tough. But I think when it's getting those decisions and being like, oh, I could just like not do this, like no one's really looking. It's still picking the path, the hardest path. Like I think avoiding the path of least resistance. And I don't think like on a day-to-day basis you may get that. Like I don't think it's like, oh, do I like take the stairs or the elevator? I think it's more just like over time there are some decisions in life where like you could pick the easy path. And I think not picking that.
It changes day to day as well. Like some days I will not want to work out. I will always do it, but some days I really won't want to. And same with like an ice bath. Some days I'll be like really G'd up for an ice bath, and some days I won't, but I'll still do it. You know what I mean? So it's just like day to day, it changes all the time.
yeah.
But yeah, just making sure you do those things, and you're stacking that evidence to like prove that you can do, you know, harder tasks in the future.
Absolutely. And choose your hard as well. I think that people don't realize that is that, you know, it like when you have a decision to make, it's hard to go to the gym, but then it's also even harder to not be living this healthy lifestyle. So it's like choose your hard. What kind of hard do you want to live? Which is like a really important decision to make because both are hard. Being unhealthy is hard, but going to the gym is hard. So it's like choose it. So tell me, what's your daily diet like? Like, what do you eat in a day, start to finish? Like, talk me through a typical day on a plate for you guys.
Day on a plate.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
breakfast. Maybe you do breakfast, I'll do lunch, and you do dinner.
Do you guys eat the exact same meals?
No. We could
It's
separate.
very similar,
but very
yeah,
similar.
slight variations.
Yeah.
I would say, but yeah, very similar.
Oh, we could do like a breakfast each. So I think like my go-to breakfast would be
Eggs, salmon, and avocado.
bang on.
Yeah.
Egg, salmon, and avocado. So I think like the core there is just like a high protein breakfast. And the great thing about eggs, you can cook them up really quick. Salmon as well. I love things that can all be made in one pan.
Yeah.
Like that is
Air
just,
fryer. Everything in the air fryer.
Okay,
He
not
will-
the air fryer, but
Oh
Yeah.
no, you're not
My-
an air fryer
He will
person.
My
go
lunch
chuck
special-
everything in the pan, like eggs, mince, and whatever, and
No,
then go
okay.
have a shower.
Okay, that's an extreme.
And then just leave it cooking, and then come back, and it's like already.
That's an extreme. I will we were in a
You
bit
need
of
to
a,
film a reel doing that.
we were in a bit of a rush to get here. So I turned on the pan. It was like stainless steel pan, turned it on. You know how you're meant to wait until like the meat sizzles and all that stuff. I literally just threw 500 grams of mince in that and then went to the shower. And I was like, came back, eggs in, mixed it all up, good to go.
There you go. Efficiency.
Yeah,
That is
I was
okay.
ready. I was
That's
waiting for
okay.
Jake.
Yeah. But no, breakfast for me, in summer, I just love a fruit bowl. Like that's like my sweet treat, as we spoke about before. I have like frozen banana, Greek yogurt, some protein powder, and like some honey, and some collagen
It's
as well.
delicious.
Yum.
Frozen
It's so
banana.
good.
Oh,
Frozen
my
banana
goodness.
mixed with Greek yogurt is so good.
Dude, frozen banana is outrageous.
Have you
Yeah.
tried a Ninja Creamy? Not sponsored. But
No, I really want to try one, but is it worth it?
the issue
Pretty good.
is you start eating a serious quantity of Greek yogurt and cottage cheese.
Yeah.
And like they don't refreeze very well. It is worth it.
So it
the
is worth it.
consistency is like ice cream.
Yeah.
And you can mix in like we mix in like walnuts and honey and macadamia and it's delicious. The issue is you get they're in pint tubs. So then you basically have a pint of Greek yogurt and cottage cheese that you almost just always end up consuming.
Yeah. Well, you have to.
The
It's rude not to
consistency is
finish it.
outrageous. Like it's
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
ice cream.
And
Okay,
like you
I
count
get it.
calories.
And it's
So
healthy.
worth the purchase.
And it's very calorie efficient. You love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to get it. Have you
Yeah.
ever tried frozen grapes?
Yes. It's like little
I
candies.
reckon they're so good.
They are good.
They're so yummy. I don't know
haven't tried
why,
it.
but
Frozen
it's just
cherries,
like never had
the
that.
best.
Okay, I need to give that a
Game
go.
changer.
Yeah, frozen grapes were like life changing for me. I was like, ooh, this is actually tastes better frozen.
Yeah, it does.
So what else do you eat? Tell me. So you've given me breakfast.
So it's brekkie.
Yep.
Lunch, like a classic staple for us, is mince, eggs, and avocado. And it's just hits so well. I don't know, beef mince, grass-fed and finished. just has like an amazing flavor.
Where do you get it from?
Normally the macro one from Woolies or from the butcher.
Grass-fed,
Yeah, just as long as it's grass-fed and finished, that's like number one priority. And we get a lot of questions on that. And the reason being is like when the animals are soy-fed or corn-fed, it's just like, you're not getting as highly macronutrient food.
Yeah.
Okay.
And micronutrient.
Well, the fat content has increased as well, just because the cattle are generally just have more fat because they're grain-fed.
Yeah.
So we try to opt for grass-fed as well.
Yeah.
And then dinner.
Dinner is honestly we've been tucking into roast lambs, Brussels sprouts, broccolini, like onion. We literally put it in a glass tray and we'll put it in the oven on like 150 for 4 hours.
It's all very efficient.
Take it out and it's ready to go. And pumpkin's an absolute staple for us.
I see that a lot.
We have a lot of pumpkin.
We love
1/3 the calories of sweet potato.
Oh yeah,
which
and
I'm sure you know.
Good.
Yeah,
So
I
good.
love pumpkin,
And
it's
it's
so
very
underrated.
nutritious
but
as
the
well.
reason why I think it's so underrated because we have a big US audience. I don't think they get good pumpkin in the US.
Don't
It's
they
a
call
very
it
Australian.
squash?
I think they make it squash.
Yeah.
But
They
I've
don't actually
definitely
call it
noticed
like, oh no, they do call it pumpkin because they have like pumpkin
Yeah.
flavored things all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
no.
squash is
Pumpkin
slightly
pie.
different.
Yeah, all the time, like pumpkin lattes and
Yeah. Pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah.
Squash latte.
yeah.
Squash latte. Yeah, pumpkins. We love pumpkin.
You guys like mentioned calories a little bit. So do you like, are you aware of how many calories you're consuming? So I know you're on the whole food diet, but do you know like, or do you have a certain calorie goal that you hit, or is it just?
We don't track calories, but that's because I think we've got to a point now where we're like, we eat the same thing pretty much all
every
the
day.
time. Not every day, but pretty much. Like a weekly shop, we pretty much rotate between different days. And I think because of that, we know roughly what we're eating. And I think once you get to that point and you've got like a pretty good, or you feel like you've got a good eye for the calories and like macronutrients on your plate, you don't really need to track it because it's a bit tedious. I think if someone was like starting their weight loss journey and they were finding it really difficult, then I'd be like, track it for a week so you get a good idea. I think if you're starting from like day .0 and you've got no idea what's on your plate, track it because it will actually give you a good indication of where it's all coming from. But after that, I feel like if you're just sticking to whole foods, like there's no real need.
Yeah.
So how many calories do you guys think or know that you're consuming on a daily basis roughly?
Probably about 3,000.
Yeah, between 3 and 3.5, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
Like there are days where we're like, we do a big bout of exercise, like if we're training for like 3 hours and running that day as well.
3 hours of training.
Yeah, we train quite a lot.
We love it.
We
just
do love it. The sessions now become like broken up a little bit because we're often quite busy. So we'll do like an hour and then like maybe an hour and a half. But that's including like things like handstands, and it's not all just like
it's not
weight
just
training
heavy
the
weights.
whole time. Like it's a lot of movement and
Yeah.
mobility as well.
It's a lot of mobility.
Yeah.
But I think when we're doing the running as well, like we do a long run, I think that's when we up the calories a little bit, or we just like, all right, we'll add rice in or something like that.
Yeah.
What's considered as a long run for you? So I know what my long runs are, so I can add a bit more calories.
Yeah.
Anything like 10 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say.
Pretty decent.
Yeah.
And like zone 2. So like, you're going like 6-minute Ks, roughly. Like really nice and slow conversational pace.
That's like zone 5 for me.
No.
On my Apple Watch, I'm like
Zone
doing.
2's hard to get into.
Wait,
It's hard to
what's-
stay.
Hard to run that slow.
So zone 5 is like the highest, right? That's like you're like
Heart rate,
right?
like you're pumping.
Yeah, I'm like running at a pace of like 6, and that's like my 6.5, right?
Yeah.
That's like my chill run, and I'm in zone 5. That's not
You
good.
need to slow down if you're in zone 5.
I'll
then.
be at walking pace then if I try and slow
There's
down.
no way you're at zone 5 if you're chilling.
Yeah,
Can
you feel
if
like
you
you're
can
chilling.
talk and run, you definitely wouldn't be
If
in
I
zone
talk
5.
and run, that's me like I'm walking. I'm not running, let me tell you.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
So
What-
you just like, how do you measure your zones? Like on your Whoop?
Yeah, Whoop tells us, but you can't see it in live. Like you
Yeah.
have to check it after. But yeah, you can see like, at what certain points like that your heart rate elevated. For example, if you're going up a hill, like it'll register it
Yeah.
and you can check it.
Interesting.
Yeah, in like proper training blocks, like for marathons, then we used Apple Watch or like
Yeah.
something to actually track it. I think even now it's more we just run because we really enjoy it.
Yeah. It's just like, I think it's such a mental game because
Yeah.
your mind always gives up before your body does. And it's like really, it's a discipline of like not stopping.
Yeah.
It's like just keep going because you're like at 3Ks, I'm just like, oh my God, I don't even want to do this anymore. I'm over it.
Yeah.
But then it's like you need to just have the discipline to be like, well, I need to keep going. My body's not sore. My body's actually so fine, but it's just a mind game. And I think just mentally it's just the most impressive thing ever, which is so cool. So how much protein do you think you're actually getting in your day? Like how many grams of protein?
We're aiming for like 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilo body weight.
So like 200 grams plus.
Okay, cool.
A day.
What's the most that you think you've consumed in a day? Because you eat a lot of protein. It's like very high protein.
Yeah. We just prioritize protein. Like we make sure we hit like probably minimum 50 grams of protein per meal.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
and we only eat like 3, maybe 4 times a day. So it's important for us to get make sure we hit our protein goals because we train a lot. We need to restore our muscles and make sure that whole process is working well. But yeah, I'd say 200 plus is a daily staple. Like we make sure we hit 200 grams plus a day.
And it's just like, it's relatively low carb. Like there are still carbohydrates in there.
Yeah.
But I think relatively low carb,
mainly
quite
from
high in
fruit.
fat.
Yeah. Do you ever have protein powder?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do.
Collagen and protein powder we have.
And do you think that, like, do you consider that as like processed?
Like we're very careful with where we source it from.
Yeah.
We make sure we check the ingredients labels. So yeah, make sure there's no like emulsifiers and gums and stuff like that.
You're okay with
we use
stevia,
a great brand at the moment called Chief, and
Chief. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're really cool and they're lovely to work with, and they've got a really great vanilla and chocolate flavored collagen protein, and it's delicious. And we check the ingredients, and it's pretty sweet. It's Pure Body approved.
Yeah, it's fine. That's probably one thing that's changed over time. I've definitely noticed with Jake's diet is taking more into like. Probably there's like the real diehard, which would be like the unflavored collagen protein, which is probably more like pure at its finest. But I think sometimes it's being like, okay, that's like natural vanilla bean. Yeah. That's okay. Like I'm going to add that in. Cacao powder. And like it is a little bit sweeter. And like maybe that does kick in some of the other cravings of like a wider range of sweeter things. But I think like in the long run, if it means you stick to your diet or like, don't feel like you need a cheat meal, then that's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, last question because we're running, like we've definitely gone over time. I'm so sorry. I said I'd do a hard stop like 15 minutes ago. But I had like this, I'm just so interested. So reflecting on your journey, what's one piece of advice you would offer to your younger self about achieving balance and fulfillment in both health and life?
You go first.
Yeah. I think balance, we're still getting there. Like I think at this point we're like, all in, and we're really like on this journey both in like business wise and fitness. So I think it will balance out as we get more things like a family and like other things to balance into our life. But I think the advice I give is just like it will come with time. I think you're always so eager when you start and you want the results instantly. I think you just need to give yourself the time to see that happen and sort of get in the groove. Like I think we lack sometimes the patience for that delayed gratification.
Yeah, pretty similar. I would just say choose something that that you love and that you see yourself doing for like the next 10 years and just do it every single day. Like if you're that passionate about it, it could turn into a career for you. And that's what we've found over the last, not even that long, over like a year. And I can see myself doing this for a long time coming. Like fitness has always been my passion. So finding a passion and just doing it day in, day out, turning it into your life.
Yeah, and it's not an overnight success, like you said. Like this has been 10 years of you guys really focusing on your health and wellness. And now it's starting to really come through in your personal brand and in your business. And so like anyone that's listening to this, it takes time and patience and dedication and discipline and just doing it every single day for it to finally show its reward as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much for both being on this podcast. I've loved speaking to you. It's so interesting, because I see on social media a lot of like what you do, but just hearing about your philosophies and your why and your values when it comes to health and wellness is just like so impressive. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for having us. It's been awesome. It's been lovely to chat.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I hope you loved it as much as I loved being a part of it, and I'll see you at the next one.